Welcome to the Winning Family Podcast with Rodney and Michelle Gage, a podcast designed to help you win at home and in life.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to the Winning Family Podcast, the podcast designed to help you win at home and in life. And, of course, I'm joined here by my much better half, Michelle Gage.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. Good to have you with us today.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a good one.
We're pumped. Hey, and rightfully so, because that's what we're talking about today. How to help your kids stay motivated. Now, I know probably no parent can relate to this subject matter because all your kids are motivated, right?
Oh, boy.
At some point, they're going to become demotivated, and we got to help them stay motivated. So we're going to give you some tips, some how-tos, and some encouragement on why that's important and how you can help your kids really just stay motivated to achieve some goals in their life that you can help encourage them to achieve. But before we dive into that, it's important, if you don't mind, to rate and review the podcast. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to know how this is encouraging you, helping you. But just by sharing with your friends, coworkers, some people that you know, other family members, it'll help us get the word out about the Winning Family Podcast. And we want to give you a free tool, a free resource. It's the book that Michelle and I wrote called The Family Shift. It's basically the heartbeat of the winning family, and it will help you as a couple, help you as parents, as a family to stop drifting and to start living with greater intention. And we kind of walk through 5 ways that you can do that. And we would encourage you, if you want a free copy of the book, all you have to do is text the word SHIFT, SHIFT, the word SHIFT to the number 1-833-213-8957. That's 1-833-213-8957. All you have to do is pay for the shipping and handling. It's a $20 book. We will send it to you. And I promise you, it will be a great source of help and encouragement to your everyday life.
We actually talked about the 5 shifts on our last podcast. So if you missed it, make sure to go back and listen to that podcast. It's very helpful as we begin a brand new year.
That's right.
Our kids need some motivation.
Well, when you think about a brand new year, you know, we often think about, you know, turning of the page to a new calendar year, and that obviously is true. It's part of the new year. But when we think about our kids, in some ways it's a little different because it's almost like the turning of the page of a second half of a year because everything revolves around a school year, right?
Right.
So January, you know, is kind of that new beginning, you know, when it comes to that second part or second semester, if you will, of school. So it's almost like that final stretch, you know, as they prepare for the end of that school year.
Yeah, like a semester has ended and now you kind of get a second chance in classes for
Redemption.
Some of our kids. Some of our kids, no problem at all, but some of our kids need a little motivation in this area, maybe of education or just in life in general. I know I'm talking to a lot of moms that are saying, yes.
Yeah, how do I get my kid off the couch? How do I get him off video games? How do I get him out of bed or how do I get her out of bed?
A 2-week break in our routine. We got to get back to it.
Absolutely. So everybody's staying up late, sleeping in late, and, you know, old habits and all that stuff. So all that to say, we got to keep our kids energized, motivated, inspired to reach their full potential. I don't think there's anything more heartbreaking, especially as a parent, to know your kid has so much potential, but yet not see them fulfill or realize their true potential.
True. That's right.
So a lot of times they're giving maybe 50% or 30% of what you know they're capable of doing. And that's reinforced too. You know, their teachers see that, the coaches see that, you know, others recognize, hey, he or she has so much potential, they have so much ability. I mean, he or she are so smart. They have so many gifts and they're just amazing in terms of their talents and abilities if they would just apply themselves a little bit more, if they would just work a little harder in this area or spend a little bit more time in that area. Well, what we want to do is take the if out of the equation and let's help them reach their full potential. And I think really the key to that is just helping them stay motivated so they keep moving forward and not get stuck or get distracted or maybe even feel defeated. Because, when you're, and I can relate to this, when you're rocking a D instead of a A in a class.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, let me tell you something. You become very demotivated to even show up to school. Got to stare that teacher in the eye when she's looking at you. And, and you as a parent, you've got a son or a daughter who's lagging behind, or they've got a lot of ground to catch up. So it's easy to kind of let your shoulders sag and to get defeated and discouraged. And it really kind of almost like feel totally overwhelmed and intimidated. Like there's no way I can get out of this situation. It's too big of a mountain to climb.
Mm-hmm. And it's not always academic. It can be in their friendships. It can be in all different areas that they need motivation. They need us to encourage them and challenge them. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How can we do that?
And let's kind of talk about real quick, kind of some whys behind the what too. Why is it so important that we help our kids stay motivated? And the first is this, because our goals are our responsibility. Now think about that for a moment. This is an opportunity, and the reason why we use the word goals is because without a goal, then we're going to drift. Without some form of intentionality, something that we're aiming for, something we're working towards, then we're always going to kind of revert back to a default. So we can either live by design or by default. Mm-hmm. And we all know as adults, and we struggle with this too, but especially kids, if we do not take control of our life in terms of where we spend our time, our energy, if we don't choose how we're going to live, somebody else will choose how to live for us. In other words, they'll tell us what to do. They'll tell us how to live. They'll tell us what to believe. They'll tell us basically what we can and can't do.
Or we keep doing the same things we've always done and get the same results we've always gotten.
Right, which is the definition of insanity. So we don't want to raise insane kids, right? Exactly. But no, seriously, I think we have to help our kids see that nobody else is going to do life for them. They've got to own that responsibility. Mm-hmm. And a part of setting goals or having goals, a part of staying motivated is just seeing that, hey, I have to assume responsibility here, because if I don't assume responsibility, if I don't really take ownership of this, then I'm going to continue to miss out. I'm going to live with some regrets. I'm going to live with that angst of not doing what I could have done or should have done. And we don't want our kids to live that way. That's why a lot of parents, that burden weighs heavily on their hearts because they know their kids have so much potential.
Yeah.
But they don't see them applying that potential.
Right.
And it's because a lot of times their kids have not taken ownership of that responsibility. And that's a part of maturity. In fact, I love what the scripture says in Philippians chapter 3, verses 12 through 15. The Apostle Paul said it this way: I have not yet reached my goal. So he's like, hey, I'm with you. We're all a work in progress. He said, I am not perfect by any means, but Christ has taken hold of me. In other words, there's something new, different. God has got a hold of my life now. So I keep running and struggling to take hold of the prize. My friends, I don't feel I have already arrived, but I forget what is behind, and I struggle for what is ahead, and I run toward the goal so I can win the prize of being called to heaven. This is the prize God offers because of what Christ has done for us. All of this, and this is so important, all of us who are mature should think in this same way. So again, a part of just growing and maturing in our lives, how we can really show maturation and progress in our life, is by having goals.
Right. And I think it's good to think about maybe, we're talking middle school, high schoolers, maybe young adults, different stages of life. As their parents, we're a coach, we, a mentor. Then as they get older, we go into that friendship level with them. But coaching them through some of this that we're getting ready to talk about, we need to make sure that a lot of it, we're guiding them. We are their parents. We are responsible for them and in raising them, but maybe giving them some some help too, that they're a part of these goals as well. So,
and I think just being their cheerleader, rather than nagging, rather than putting guilt, rather than using condemnation or comparison, all of those things will demotivate. But if we can speak life, if we can speak to their potential, and we can come alongside, not do it for them, but say, how can I help you? What are some things that we can do that will help you maybe turn that D to a B? What can we do in the next 90 days? What changes can we take in the next week? What steps can we take to help us start moving in the right direction? All of those little reinforcements will help our kids see that it's doable. This is something they can do, but they've got to own that. They've got to show maturity and responsibility for that. Number 2, goals are a statement of belief. So rather than seeing, maybe I know we're talking a lot about grades, but it might even be something they desire to do. It might be a dream they have.
Yeah.
It might be something they're really in their heart of hearts wanting to accomplish in their life. But they see that being so far-fetched or unrealistic, or it's like, well, I could never do that. Well, what you're saying is I don't believe in myself. So when we say, no, I can do this, what are we saying? We're declaring that, you know what? Hey, I believe that I have the ability to do this. And that's almost like speaking faith into what we see ourselves actually accomplishing. It's futuristic. It's like saying to that mountain be moved.
Right. Right. And I think the difference between a dream, which some of that is a dream, which we should encourage dreaming.
Absolutely.
Oh, so important.
And it's free.
Expose, to dream.
Right.
Yeah. So good. So important, especially as we start a new year. What are your dreams? But the difference between a dream and a goal is a goal. You put a timeline to when you want to reach that dream.
Right.
Reach that vision that you have. And obviously, as parents, we can put realistic help into that because our social media world, our kids think they can be the greatest at whatever it is by the end of the year. Well, it takes some work. And we got to put some goals in place and put timelines to those goals to help them reach their dream and their vision for their life. It's so important to dream. Brings so much energy to your life to be able to dream.
Absolutely. And I think, it's speaking into the potential of our kids,
right.
Them seeing themselves, realizing that potential and achieving whatever that challenge, obstacle, goal might be. And so with that in mind, having that goal, something that they are now putting a timeline to, they're putting some structure around that, they're starting to work towards that. What does that do? Well, that gives them energy. It keeps them energized to keep moving forward toward whatever it is they're pursuing.
Yeah.
And so if it's, maybe making the varsity cheerleading team, or whether it is making first chair in band, or whether it is, again, moving that grade from a B to an A, or fill in the blank,
Getting a certain scholarship.
Yeah, whatever that goal and aspiration is, that keeps them energized. It's what begins to motivate them, because now they can see the end in sight. They have a target they're shooting for. It just brings it re-energizes your life. Without a goal, again, we're always going to drift. We're going to just go back to default rather than by design, where we're designing how we want to go. We design the direction, the future of our lives.
And I think what you pointed out too, you've listed different areas. I think it's important that we realize, and I know that you're smart parents, that every child is different. So the goal for Johnny, my first child, might be different than for Sarah, my second child, and for Rachel, my third child. I can't expect the exact same goal for each one of them.
Different personalities.
Yeah. And God made us all so unique and different. Some of us are so gifted in the academic world, and it's just a gifting, and I know that it's discipline as well, but some people are more on the creative side and just ridiculously gifted on the creative side, and maybe they're not going to reach the same academic goal as Johnny is. Rachel may be completely different, and helping our children, I think, as a family, not to always have the exact same goal for every child, is just to help them in their areas of gifting is motivating, because they believe they can do that,
And I just want to say this, no knock on any teacher, administrator, academic advisor, if you're listening out there. I think what happens a lot of times is we're trying to force all kids down a specific path. And that dangling carrot, a lot of times we try to, especially schools, I know are guilty of this at times. It's like, well, don't you want to be accepted into fill in the blank, whatever major state school where everybody's, it's the prestigious school. It's like, if you don't get in this school, then you've failed in life. Well, I think we have this delusion of, it's like, well, if you don't have a perfect GPA or you don't just kill it on the SAT or whatever, it's like your life is ruined. And I think that is the furthest thing from the truth. And I think we're trying to sometimes force a square peg to be fit into a round hole. And it just, sometimes you just say, if they may be more artistic and creative. Yeah. And so they may not kill it on the SAT, but they can kill it in a production, when it comes to audio and visual and, or maybe graphic design, the creative arts, singing, fill in the blank, whatever those artistic abilities might be. Maybe an architect.
Our son just blows my mind. Now, school was not
hated it.
Can I say it one more time? Not his thing. I was not his thing. But the brilliance of the music that he writes, the lyrics that he writes, I'm like, why was school not your thing? I don't understand, because you're so brilliant in your writing ability. And that's how every person is. We have God gifts. Each person has a God gift on your life. And for us to realize as parents, to really kind of watch it and be students of our children and help to motivate them to put goals on their gifts is huge.
That's it.
They don't have to follow what culture is pushing them down, whatever direction that might be. What is their God gift? Because that's the thing that's going to stay with them. And if they develop it, if they put goals around it, they're unstoppable, really unstoppable in their purpose and their fulfillment in life.
Too many kids start out as an original and end up being a copycat. They've got to learn to be who God uniquely and gifted them to be. And the sooner we can help them discover that and then nurture that, pour gasoline on that becomes that source of momentum and motivation that keeps them energized because they're building on their strengths.
So good, yeah.
Rather than them trying to keep improving on their weaknesses. And I get it. We can all grow, we can all improve.
Absolutely.
But if we just keep trying to focus on the weakness and keep the weakness at the main point of focus, then we've missed an opportunity on maximizing and continuing to grow and develop their strengths, because that's where longevity is going to come in when it comes to their career choice, when it comes to how they're going to make the greatest contribution and impact to the world, is maximizing and building upon their gifts and their abilities, not necessarily those weaknesses. So goals help focus our energy. They keep us motivated. And then here's the last thing, and that we'll say is relates to the why behind the what when it comes to just keeping our kids motivated with goals, and it helps develop and build their character. So think about that for a moment. When it comes to the character aspect, here's what I like to say, and I think this is important to encourage your kids with this statement. When it comes to goals, is not, in terms of how we measure success, is not necessarily measured on what they do or what goals they achieve, as much as it is in who they are becoming in the process. Because, you can achieve whatever, But if the wheels come off in your life, spiritually, morally, or whatever, those are character issues. And what's more important is what they're learning, how they're developing, how they're growing. And I think ultimately developing their character is what is going to make everything come together in their life, because they will have built these incredible gifts on a solid foundation that is not built on pride or arrogance or look who I am, look what I've achieved, but based on I'm using the gifts and the abilities that God's given to me, and I've stewarded them well, and I've tried to make the best of the best choices I could possibly make with what God has entrusted to me by using those gifts and those talents to make a difference for Him.
That's right.
And so we want to raise the next generation that are not only gifted in pursuing these amazing things, but most importantly, we're raising up the next generation to be men and women of God who are salt and light into a world that's making an eternal difference. So with that...
Just to add real quick, when you talk about character and goals for your character as well, character is not always developed in the easy times and getting to our goal.
Absolutely.
Character is developed in the hard times a lot of times. And so just... encouraging our kids, because you may be going through a season right now where it's a hard season. Like you said, it's kind of the middle of the year instead of the beginning of the year for our kids. It's kind of the middle of the year. And they may be in the slump in the middle of the year. Just remind them that it's okay. We all go through challenges. Maybe it's in friendship. Maybe it is academically. Maybe it's with their sport. Maybe they're in a slump with their sport, or maybe it is on the creative side. Maybe they've got a mental block on something. Just encourage them that it's through the difficult times that we grow, and it's through the challenges that we build our muscle. And when you're lifting weights, it's hard and it's difficult, but it's making you stronger. The hard times are going to make us stronger. And that's really what a lot of times is growing our character, who we're becoming in the process of reaching those goals is huge.
Yeah. I heard someone would say that kids are kind of like the film in an old school camera. They're overexposed and underdeveloped. Boom. That'll work.
Boom.
But with that, it's just important that we do what we can to help our kids develop that character and become all that God has destined them to be. So let me just give you a little framework, some skeleton outlines here of some things that as parents that we would encourage you to do. And I would encourage you to write these down and maybe just sit down, maybe set aside a family gathering, a meeting with your kids. It's something we really, really encourage. We call it just a weekly check-in. Yeah. And it's just as a family, you sit down, we've talked about, going over your highs and lows for the week, and, kind of reinforcing, our core values, celebrate that, recognize somebody in the family who exemplified and kind of embodied those values for the week, and do something special to celebrate, really honor that. And in addition to that, it's also a way to kind of review goals of, hey, where are we? How are we making progress in some of these areas of our lives, and encouraging one another along the way. Or maybe speaking into that moment and say, well, what are some things that we can do to help, So with that, here, let me give you, I like to call it a faith acronym to help you reach these goals. And this can be something that your kids can also apply and kind of keep in front of them, as well as together we work through some of these goals to keep everybody motivated and engaged. So the F stands for focus. So that simply means whatever goals that they're establishing, whether it's in their physical health, which, by the way, in our book called The Family Shift, we actually talk about a goals tree. We talk about 5 specific goals. We talk about your physical health, growing in your health. We talk about your relationships. So that's the relational goals. We talk about spiritual. So how can we grow and develop spiritually in our lives? We talk about the intellectual goals. That's, of course, the academic and just the personal development side of our goals. And then we talk about the financial side of things. So those 5 specific areas, those are very, very focused, specific goals. And it may just be one thing that you do in each of those areas. but begin focusing your energy toward that. And then the A stands for obtainable. So that simply means that it must be realistic and practical. So if your son is in the 8th grade, he may not set a realistic goal to be in the NBA next year, okay? So, hanging with LeBron James. But at the end of the day, maybe it is, making the JV team. Maybe it's, or whatever that goal is, but it's got to be realistic and obtainable. So I think that's very, very important so that they don't get too ambitious in some of the things they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, because that can bring such disappointment
Absolutely.
if you make your goals a little too big. Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, the I stands for individual. So in other words, they must be your specific goal, not somebody else's. So you're not competing or comparing. It's important that it is an individual goal. And again, that is all relevant, again, to what's realistic. So again, you were talking about some who it comes natural for some to be more academic. Some, it's more natural to be more artistic and creative. A lot of it might just be body type. It may not be as easy for some to get as healthy or in shape or be as fast or strong as somebody else just based on their frame of their body. So, again, but it's got to be individual. T stands for trackable. So there's got to be a way that you measure the progress. So it's like looking at the dashboard and knowing, are we winning? Or looking at the scoreboard, are we winning? Are we behind? What do we need to do? You've got to be able to measure your results to see how you're doing, because that's what keeps you motivated too. And celebrate the wins along the way too. That's huge. So whether that's getting an ice cream or taking them to their favorite restaurant or whatever, celebrate the wins when they achieve those little individual goals along the way.
Right.
And then of course the H stands for heartfelt. So in other words, it's got to be something that motivates you, moves you. It's got to be something that lights your fire. It's a passion that you have. So that is what we call faith goals. And when we kind of build the structure around the F, the A, the I, the T, the H, focused, attainable, individual, trackable, heartfelt, what does that do? That allows us to be able to have some structure that we're building our goals around. Yeah. And allows us to be able to use that and leverage that as a way to keep us motivated, moving in the direction that we know we're capable of moving. Again, it's helping our kids reach their full potential.
Right. Well, we pray that this was helpful in guiding your child to get some motivation for this year, and maybe listen back, write these things down, share them with a friend. Something easy you can do if you're watching on YouTube. This podcast goes out on a lot of different platforms. Maybe you don't know we're on YouTube. You can actually see us, but you can maybe take a screenshot and share a quote, share these faith goals with your friends and family, because we all need encouragement. I love it when people share helpful things with me. It's so important. So we would love it if you would even rate, review, share some questions, or maybe just share this podcast with a friend. It would mean the world to us because we're trying to make a difference. We're trying to help families win at home and in life.
Yeah. And we'd love to hear what goals, what specific things you're going to start working towards.
That's right.
And maybe pass that on to us about what your kids are going to strive to accomplish as well. So these are some things that will motivate us as we help motivate you to keep moving forward and winning in all these aspects of your home and in your life. So we love you guys. Thanks so much for joining this episode with us here at The Winning Family.